Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there. Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
My name is Richard Furrow, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family, I'm cloud hired.
So, I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired.
Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the Glow Cloud team.
Welcome everyone. Today we're here to help you build your career and your technology career or your cloud computing career or even your networking career. My name is Mike Gibbs. I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers. I've been in tech now since 1993, which sounds like an incredibly long time, a little over 31 years, but I've been an architect now for well over 25 years. And for 2 decades, I've helped people get their first job, get promoted in tech, negotiate raises, and everywhere in between. And I love helping people, which is why I come online once per week. So today we are here because we want to help people get to their goals, and the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And here's the thing. I've taken people that have spent 3 years training and inside of months gotten them to places they've never been before, because we know what the employers want, not what people think the employers want. And if you've got to sell a product, in which case, if we're an architect, we've got to sell our services, you have to have the things and the skills that the employers want, because they're basically your paying customer. And that's why we're here. So if you want to learn how to become a cloud architect, ask it. Want to learn how to become an enterprise architect? Ask it. Want to become a network architect? Ask it. Want to become a cloud engineer? Why not? Ask it. And that's what we do. So I've got graduates that work in Apple, AWS, Cisco, Microsoft, IBM, KPMG, Deloitte, Accenture, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Barclays Bank, JP Morgan Chase Bank. I mean, you name it, they're there. I want you to have the same success. So please answer your questions. We're here completely free and we don't bite. I also want to tell you that we just launched our Enterprise Architect program, which to me is the most exciting thing ever. I've been an architect, all kinds of architects, network architects, cloud architects, enterprise architects, business architects, and at least for me, I love all these roles, specifically the cloud architect role, but I even love the enterprise architect role. It's been my favorite over the last 25 years because it's so strategic with business. So we launched our enterprise architect class, and guess what? It's 50% off for the next month. It's pre-sale discount. I also want to tell you that Thursday, which is tomorrow, we have our How to Become an Enterprise Architect webinar. We will discuss what our enterprise architects do. We will discuss what is enterprise architecture, and we'll talk about how to get your first enterprise architect job, which I got to tell you, one of the best jobs in the world. So ask us your questions so we can help you. I'm here with my Chief Marketing Officer, Alonzo. And Alonzo, introduce yourself.
Well, as always, thanks so much, Mike. Everyone, I am proud to always be a part of these webinars and be able to showcase all the benefits that Go Cloud Careers can do for you, especially with our latest flagship program, the Enterprise Architect Development Program. If you've ever wanted to become an architect, cloud or enterprise or otherwise, this is the stop for you. Early on in my tech career, I did not have this. I was pretty much in a learning wasteland where everyone was throwing cloud, technology, architect everywhere, but in the right places for me to learn what I needed to become a competent cloud architect. And thankfully, I have learned a lot from Mike. He has been able to demystify a lot of these concepts that people will throw 5 and 6 syllable words at you on assumed knowledge that you already have based off of arguably antiquated perceptions and trajectories on how you can become a cloud architect. So please take advantage of this opportunity, learn from us, ask the questions, and we're here to help.
Okay, so Tyrone, you're behind the scenes. Do we have any questions yet? If so, bring them in.
All right, from number 2. Thanks for doing these sessions. Can you share more about your LinkedIn post last week about not chasing certifications? Great question.
Wonderful question, number 2. And here's the reason. So I've interviewed about 6,000 people so far. And the people that have the most number of certifications that I've interviewed tend to have the least amount of actual relevant skills. And I'll explain why this is. First, all certifications are intro level, including the hardest one out there, the Cisco Certified Internet Expert. And I like to say the CCIE, which cost me close to $40,000 to train for, that I had to read 75,000 pages of reading to get through it and do hundreds of hours of labs. I like to say that was my intro to networking. And when I finished the CCI, I thought I knew something. And then I actually got to work as a network architect, and I realized that I needed to learn and learn and learn. And it took 25 years to get good at a job that I already had, 6 certifications in, including the hardest one in the world. Now, I do like certifications. They do serve a purpose. 2 to 3 strategic high-value certifications like the CISSP or the CCIE or a TOGAF or even an AWS Solutions Architect Professional, 2 or 3 of those can be very good for building your brand. They can be excellent for it. But see, and that is wonderful to get you an interview. And then if you learn the skills that matter, then you'll get a great job. But I really want to tell you what employers care about. They don't care about certifications, and I've asked thousands of them. They care about the following: your expertise and your competency in the role. Meaning, if I'm an architect, I have nothing to do with coding, I have nothing to do with DevOps, I have nothing to do with SysOps, but I need to have the business acumen to understand my client's business and translate those business needs to a technology solution and improve that business. And see, none of that stuff is covered in technology and in our certification. And after asking thousands of employers, what do you want? They say skill. We want expertise in the person's job that they actually train for, not everybody else's job, which they see in the 10X certified people. They said we want people that communicate well because they don't make mistakes, and they're more likely to harbor increased relationships on our team, which will enhance team productivity, which means everybody's better. They consistently say, I want people that know what they know and know what they don't know. And that way, no mistakes occur. They tell me I want to hire people with energy, enthusiasm, and passion for the job. But seriously, who would you want? Hold on. Wake me up when it's time to work. Would you hire this person and you were paying them? I wouldn't. I want someone that's fired up and excited about the role. Employers also look for emotionally intelligent people. And why is this? Because one emotionally intelligent person can raise the energy on the entire team. And if you've got 10 people on the team and you've got an Energizer bunny that's emotionally intelligent, that brings out the best in others, if everybody else does 10 additional percent, it's like you got an additional employee for free. Now, the next thing employers are looking for are team players. And they're looking for people that go above and beyond. So if you're all those things, you can get any job in the world with 0 certifications. But I got to tell you, I interviewed 1,000 AWS certified people. 99% didn't realize that EC2 was a virtual machine. In fact, I saw somebody write an article today about how EC2 is changing the world. What they didn't realize is back in 1999, VMware released the same thing as an EC2 instance called the virtual machine. When you ask people that are AWS certified, they don't understand storage area networks. They don't understand databases and how to design them. They don't understand architecture. They know the name of a service and how to configure that, which is good for a junior level job like a cloud admin. But if you want a more senior level job like an architect, it's not even close to enough. It doesn't even scratch the surface. It teaches you a proprietary name of a service, which generally speaking we can't use, and then how to go configure that thing, which we don't do in our jobs anyway. So it's not that I'm against certification. It's that most certified people don't do well. And here's what most people do. They look at the certification, they start to watch some ridiculous, silly course that somebody put out there that's never worked a day in their life, but now they've got a course on Udemy or wherever. And then they listen to this, and what they hear is blah, 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 because the person teaching it doesn't know it well enough to explain it simply. And then they get bored, and then they go to a brain dump, or they buy a copy of the exam, or they even pay somebody to take the exam for them, or they buy something with a 99.6% pass rate. They memorize the questions, they pass the exam, but there's no skills. I'm not going to buy my wife a box, wrap it up real nice, and put a pretty bow on it that's empty. And sadly, that's what we find as employers when we interview a lot of certifications. No skills relevant to the job. So certifications aren't bad. They're great to help you get that interview. But it's about getting the right certifications. Don't get 4 associate certifications. And associate certifications is you're almost ready to do something, but not really. Where a professional certification means you might know something. And an expert certification like the CCIE says the person's probably competent, but they've got a lot to learn. So, get the basic certifications, 2 or 3 professional ones, or an expert one, and then run towards developing your skills, developing your business acumen. And here's the other reason why. People with high degrees of emotional intelligence typically earn $30,000 more per year than the average person. People that have strong business acumen tend to, on average, earn $558,000. You can check that on salary.com, and it's in line with the roles we want. So where are you going to spend your time? On a certification like a DevOps certification, if you're an architect, which has no relationship to our job whatsoever? Or are you going to build your business acumen and add an extra $100,000 to your salary? Are you going to build your leadership skills and add more money to your salary? You're going to work on your emotional intelligence, add money to your salary. You're going to work on your sales skills, which will definitely add money to your salary. Or you're going to be chasing certifications. That's the reason why.
One social engineer. Do you offer one-on-one interview practice, Mike?
One social engineer, absolutely, we do offer one-on-one interview practice, but I don't recommend it. I'll tell you what I do recommend is our Tech Interview Mastery Program. And here's the reason. We do 4 small batch classes where we will interview you. We also do a monthly class as long as for at least 6 months, and we'll do more practice interviews there. And even charging $1,200 an hour for a practice interview, which we do, I'm still 26 weeks behind on being able to do interview courses. And the reality is, I'd rather somebody buy a course and get expertise, content on how to interview, content on how to shaping your message to what the employers desire, content on what employers care about, content on how to present yourself, content on how to sell yourself, content on how to negotiate a big deal, like negotiate your salary, and really teach you how to do your resume, teach you how to do your LinkedIn profile for basically the cost of 2 actual interview sessions. And I like to charge the least amount possible to get people to their goals. So look, if you actually want a private lesson or a private interview, Tyrone will pop the link to that in there. But Tyrone, while you're at it, could you please provide a link to the Tech Interview Mastery Program? I think that would be really helpful to One Social Engineer. And I really want to get you to your goals, One Social Engineer. And I think that would be the best thing we could do. And, our clients that take that Tech Interview Mastery Program do awfully well. So that would be my advice to you. But sure, we definitely do them. I'll have my team pop them in the chat box. And all I want is your goals. And why do I care so much about the interview? And why did I make this interview training program? I'm going to show you right now. The reason we created such an interview training program and focused so heavy with it is the pay range on every job is really big. So here's a senior director role for IBM. What I want you to notice is, and I'll read it off to you, is that the pay average is $399, but the pay range is $314 to $521. Now, this is not a sales role, so that's how good you can negotiate your deal. And what determines how much you can negotiate your deal? How desirable you are to the employer. So your interview skills. There's the principal architect over at AWS. Now, here sales skills are going to be a big player, and business acumen as well. But if you look at the pay range of $291 to $491, that's $200,000 difference. And a good interview in a job like that can easily get you $75,000 more than you could on your own. So I don't want to use the global account manager because that's a commission-driven position. So let's find a managing director over at Accenture. 384 is the standard, but look at the range, 294 to 514. So again, over $200,000 that's there. Principal architect over at Microsoft. Average pay is 380 approximately, but the range is 300 to 495. And when you get, here's another job, a principal architect over at Google. Average pay is $508,000 a year. These printouts are straight from Glassdoor. And the pay range is 394 to 677. So that's almost $300,000 difference between the top and the bottom paid person. So I strongly, strongly recommend you get good, strong interview training. And truth be told, if you actually purchased our interview training, you would get some discounted rates on actual private interviews. But I don't think you need them. I really don't. I'm watching my people in this interview program, and they are master interviewers by the time we're done with them. I hope I answered your question, and please feel free to ask a subsequent question. I really want to help you get to your goals.
Back to number 2, Mike. And then after that question, a follow-up. Could you talk more about your post today about competency versus experience in the job descriptions? That's another great one.
Yeah. So number 2, if I'm putting a job through HR, I know that I'm going to get 1,000 people apply for the jobs. And with all the people out there saying, apply for jobs you're not qualified for, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to get thousands of people that I could never employ in the first place because they lack the skills. Now, a job description is silly. I've never had more than 10% of the things in the job description, and they're usually filled with a bunch of things that are totally unrelated. And why would a job description want 40 years of Kubernetes experience when it doesn't exist that long? 3 Olympic gold medals, 20 years in anything. Because they're hoping that you're competent. They're hoping that you're competent, but that doesn't mean you will be. I got to tell you, I've been interviewing people forever. And I've interviewed people with 30 years experience that know nothing. I've interviewed people with no experience that are rock solid. And the key is employers want competent. And sometimes you see a 23-year-old become the manager of a 50-year-old because they're competent in the skills to get that job. Or the senior leader, the principal architect. I was a principal architect with 2 years experience because I had the skills. I proved it on the interview. They gave me 8 hours of straight tech questions in an interview for Riverstone Networks by the people that wrote the code for the routing protocols. And they kept asking me questions, and I answered, and I answered, and I answered. And I could watch them smile. And that's the key. It's about how good you are. Look, I know physicians, I know architects that have literally been around forever that know nothing, that you can't even figure out how they ever had a job in the first place. And I'll show you a 14-year-old hacker that can hack into something that I want on my security team, regardless of the degrees, regardless of their certification, because they're that good. So I hired the best. I don't care where they exist in the world. I don't care at all about their level of experience. I care about their skill. And what they can do. And it goes to everything else. I also care about their emotional intelligence, their leadership skills, their communication skills, the executive presence, their business acumen, their emotional intelligence. But seriously, job descriptions, I haven't seen one that's real. In fact, generally speaking, if there's a job description and it sounds cuckoo, I generally try to find somebody at the company and ask what they actually do in their job for the same role. I've actually only seen 1 or 2 job descriptions in my life that were ever accurate. I really wish it was there. But the employers do have to. They definitely have to hire competency. So the hope is if you've done something for 10 years, you might know how to do it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way half of the time, but at least that's the theory. Let's go to the next one, Tyrone.
Ice cream. I was interning at Cargill trying to float an AI project. I found that the vendor company didn't have any math or architecture people, and we have had many problems throughout the pipeline, no cohesion. If you can create a data-oriented architecture for non-tech companies, you will be providing massive value in using data to become central to business operations.
Well, here's the thing. How does the business operate? What are the business goals? What are the business needs? You can't create an architecture before you actually know what people care about. What are you solving? What problem? So architecture is like medicine. Hey, Alonzo, go take this pill. Would you take it?
No.
And that's the key. So what happens is people say, hey, I've got a project. And that's the key. So the point is, yes, these companies need real architects. And that's the real issue. And real architects are people that can start with the executives in the company and find their vision for the business. If they don't start at the executives, they're not architects, they're engineers. Then the architect needs to understand how the business operates today. How does sales occur? How does customer service occur? How does this occur? And then they can go down the path of trying to figure out how they want the business to operate in the future. Is data an asset to the business? In many businesses, it is. In other businesses, they're more transactional and they're less data-driven. But the business goals actually design that. And data is good. But data is only 1% of everything else that's there. It's just a small fraction of what's there. Artificial intelligence is another technology that can help businesses be better. But it has to be placed in the right place with the right workflow. You keep that in the back of your mind. So, yeah, I totally agree with you. If I had really good architects, yes, they wouldn't have these problems ever. And that's why the architect needs to sell. Because if the architect can't sell their vision, the company will just say no. That's why the architect needs to understand the business, because otherwise it'll cause a problem. Now, I agree with you, Ice Cream, but Ice Cream, I will tell you that 50% of all cloud projects are disasters. I will also tell you that 70% of all digital transformation expert events, according to McKinsey Consulting, are also failures. And why are they failures? Because they're tech-driven, tech-driven, tech-driven. They need to be business-driven. But yeah, on the whole, I completely agree with you. And, work on those sales skills. And I bet you the next time you can get up to those executives, you get the CXO relevancy and the leadership and the executive presence, they will take you very seriously. And I bet you can do a lot to help them. So really appreciate your comments and totally agree with you, Ice Cream.
Angelo, if someone had no formal job experience but gets their solutions architect professional, how would you leverage that into actually landing a solutions architect position?
Angelo, the AWS Solutions Architect Professional is nothing related to architecture. You can get that certification and all 10 other certifications and no one's going to care. And I'll tell you why. The AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional is the name of a service and how to configure things. Architects don't configure things. 98% of all cloud architectures are multi-cloud, which means 50% of the stuff in your AWS Solutions Architect Professional you can't use. So you have to have the wisdom to do that. Now, why does no one care about that certification? Because where in that certification have you learned would somebody learn executive presence? Where in that certification would someone learn how to analyze an organization's financial statements and be able to look for opportunities to use technology to improve that business? Where in the Certified Solutions Architect Professional would you know how to build a business case to convince the customer to buy your systems? Where in the AWS Solutions Architect Professional would you learn to be able to run an ROI model looking at the weighted average cost of capital to determine if it's cheaper to finance a private cloud like Nutanix or OpenStack and connect it to AWS? Where in the AWS Solutions Architect Professional do they tell you how to sell to executives? Where do they teach you how to give presentations? And where in that certification do they teach you how to write thought leadership documents? You see, Angela, we architects don't configure anything. That's somebody else's job. We design it, we present it, and we sell it. And then it gets turned over to another team to build it. And then it's turned over to another team to maintain it. And then it's turned over to another team when there's problems. So I like the AWS Solutions Architect as a way to get an interview. And then you need to train to be an architect. That certification doesn't teach you how to design a multi-cloud solution. That certification doesn't teach you how to design robust security. Neither does the AWS Advanced Security. It's nothing. But a CISSP would have some of the content you actually need there. So you can make any text complicated by just shoving it full of poorly written questions like they've done in the Certified Solution Architect Professional. But honestly, it's nothing. That's why we have the training program that we have. And while we're at it, please, Tyrone, please pop a link to the how to become a cloud architect and how to get your first solutions architect job. Because, Angela, I've taken people with no experience, and I'll give you some examples. Ivan Tamba, young kid, was working as a restaurant. We got him hired by AWS. Jordan Kitko is another fine young man. We got a college student hired by AWS with no experience. Coyote, another college student, no experience. We got him hired by AWS. Noah Parker was a social worker. We got a solution architect job for recently. And Pierre Dassault was working on sailboats, but now he's a solution architect. Lenny Barnett was a client of ours, and he was an incredible video editor, one of the best I've ever seen. We trained him and also got him a job. Then there was Daniel Bosu, the high school dropout that I love this kid because his inner strength and his intelligence is so high. We got him a job without even graduating high school at JP Morgan Chase, and his last job was selling the shoes and things at Nordstrom. While we're at it, we can say Jennifer Ema. She was a mental health tech. We got her hired by JP Morgan Chase as well. Balwinder was a stay-at-home mom that we got hired by Microsoft, and I can give you examples all day. But I promise you, we have 700 hours of training that's in addition to the Certified Solution Architect Professional, and we teach architect skills. So it's not that the certification is bad. It really should be changed to the Cloud Administration Professional as opposed to the Solution Architect Professional. It just has honestly nothing related to what we do. So I wouldn't try to leverage that certification because employers don't care. I would try to prove the knowledge that you have.
And if we could just definitely have Angelo refer back to why competency over certifications and experience matter, because we really strongly want to emphasize the importance of the competency over what everyone says is a certification. So
Yeah.
trust in what you can build and how you can exemplify your experience over what a certification can do for you.
And while we're at it, I want to get back to the second part of Angela's. Thanks. Well, you feel like you can't get past the resume software. Angela, if you're applying for jobs, you won't get past the resume software for the most part. That's why we use IT recruiters, because we use an IT recruiter that gets paid $50,000 plus for you to find you a job. They then pitch you, pretend Alonzo is the hiring manager. Here's what a good recruiter will do. Hi, Alonzo, it's Mike Gibbs, the tech recruiter here today. Alonzo, I heard that you have a need for a cloud architect. Alonzo, I've got a great cloud architect for you. The cloud architect's name is Angelo Talbert. I got to tell you about him. He's well trained. He's emotionally intelligent. He's got sales skills. He's got executive presence, has a strong grasp of the network, the data center, and the cloud, knows how to design high performance, highly resilient, highly available architectures. Would you like to meet him?
Absolutely, Mike.
And then I pre-sold you, Angelo, to the hiring manager, and that's what a good recruiter will do. And then the hiring manager is biased to like you because Alonzo trusts me because I'm the recruiter he's dealt with for long periods of time. And then Alonzo will interview you, and if you do a good job, he'll say, yes, Angelo, I need to hire you. And then what he'll do is he'll ask you, if I make you an offer, are you going to accept it? And then you'll say yes. And then Alonzo will say, call HR and say, look, I'm hiring Angelo Talbert. Angelo's got a lot of business acumen. He's got a lot of leadership. He's got a lot of executive presence. I want to pay him 1.3 times the average architect salary. That's called your comp ratio. And then what'll happen is you will get an offer that is on paper. And then you will sign that document or negotiate it based on how well your interview went and based on other negotiation skills, like your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And then you'll start, Angelo. Now, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen at least 50% of the time. A year's going to pass. You're going to get promoted, and then you're going to get auto-rejected from HR because I want to keep HR far, far, far away from my hiring process. I've never applied for, that's not true. I was going to say I never applied for a job, but I did. I applied for 5 jobs in the beginning, which I got no responses to for the most part. And I used a recruiter to get my first job at MCI WorldCom, which is now Verizon. I used a recruiter to get a job at Night Securities. I used a recruiter for my principal architect job at Riverstone Networks, which means I didn't apply. Now, I wasn't home for about 3 months, Angelo. And my wife, I bought a brand new Mac, and she applied to Cisco for me. And then Cisco called me in, and I had an interview. So I guess there was an application for that. But otherwise, I've never applied to jobs because you're just going to get auto-rejected unless you have the perfect resume. And what is a perfect resume, really? You can make your resume fit the job description, and then the employer is going to interview you on your resume. And unless you've lived like 3,000 years like a vampire, because I've been watching vampire movies, you won't have the time to learn all the things that are in a job description, because the job description is really meant to keep you from applying unless you're competent. So generally speaking, if you're low, don't be there. And the other part of it is, Angela, you got to translate your relevant work experience to something that's more architect related. And we can do this for nurses. We can do this for physicians. We can do it all the time for any career. Many of the skills are related to the same job. I'll give you an example. Angela, my first career was practicing internal medicine. And here's what I did in internal medicine. The patient would come to me with a problem. It's called their chief complaint. And I'd ask them, tell me about this problem. What makes this problem better? What makes this problem worse? Then I would do an exam on the patient. And then I make a diagnosis, and then I come up with a plan, which is usually a prescription, physical therapy, or whatever. What do I do as an architect? Client, could you tell me what's going on in your business? What are your goals, pain points, and challenges? Client, do you mind if I bring in some engineers to baseline your systems? Then I make a diagnosis, and then I build a treatment plan called an architecture. So doctor interview a client, architect interview a client, Doctor, assess the client. Architect, assess the client. Doctor, make a diagnosis. Architect, make a diagnosis / hypothesis. Doctor, write a plan. Architect, write a plan. So I actually learned architecture by practicing internal medicine in my youth. So many jobs have relevant work experience, and we can easily get you there. I really want you to get that How to Become a Cloud Architect download. I also want you to attend our next How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar, which we'll be doing soon. While we're at it, attend our free Enterprise Architect webinar tomorrow. It's free. It costs you nothing. It'll be on Zoom, and you can ask live questions, and I really, really want to help you, Angela. I really want to help you. Please feel free to ask more questions.
From Felix, please your recommendations for hands-on lab training. There will be useful for solution architect. I mean, for improving architecting skills, not only about service and configuration.
Okay, so I want to make this clear, Felix. Hands-on lab training doesn't work for architects. Why? We don't touch the technology as architects, like ever. So here, if I do a lab and I learn how to click on a few buttons on a management console, guess what, Felix? You won't know anything about design. Felix, I got a question for you. You've used a web browser before, right? Do you know what happens by the time you put www.gocloudcareers.com in your browser? You've got hands-on experience. But do you know? And that's the problem. The people that build buildings aren't asked to design buildings, ever. And the people that fly airplanes aren't asked to design an airplane, aren't asked to design an airplane because building experience teaches you nothing about system design experience. So Felix, I'll give you the example. I'll give you some commands for a networking lab on BGP, which a cloud architect would do. Here's the commands: router BGP 65312, neighbor 192.168, remote AS 65313, neighbor 192.168 1.2, activate. Now I configured BGP. That's a hands-on lab. But you know what that doesn't teach, Felix? I do that on a router in Japan. How does that affect the salespeople that are in South Africa? How does it affect the tech support team that's in Latvia? How does that affect the sales reps that are sitting in New York City? What effect does that have on our artificial intelligence systems? That's architecture. So here's what I recommend, Felix. You're going to have to be trained to be an architect by someone. And then you're going to have to go through cases. Okay, we've got a business. The business has this problems. You spoke to the CEO and they told you this. They spoke to the CIO and they told you this. You spoke to the department heads and they tell you this. Now, here's their current tech. What do you want the future tech to be? And then you got to present it back to the client and sell it back to the client. That's the job. So, I mean, we do things like that with our architect students, and that's why architect students get hired with or without experience. But you can do all the labs you want. Now, Felix, I do recommend labs understanding of the following reasons. They won't teach you anything about architecture. Nothing. So why would I ever recommend somebody do the labs? For the following reasons. When somebody ever asks if you can do it, you can do it. So what would actually be good labs for the architect? Well, you can build your own cloud. I have my clients all build their own cloud from scratch. And that way, when somebody else says, hey, I set up an S3 bucket, you can giggle and say, yeah, I designed the whole cloud. And, you know, I would set up virtual machines and containers and container orchestration like Kubernetes. And I would set up file servers and 3-tier architectures and everything else the hard way in the data center. And then when you go to the cloud, it's like it's nothing. And that way you're learning what the systems are. Because clicking a bunch of boxes in the cloud is going to teach you nothing about system design. Nothing. But learning how things work by comparison, then that BGP example I gave you, what the architect would need to learn is, what are the BGP messages? What are the BGP states of the finite state machine? How does BGP select a path? How would I engineer my traffic to load share across links without getting out of order packets? That's architect knowledge, and it's very different than engineering knowledge, which is hands-on knowledge. I have no problem with hands-on experience, but I got to tell you, Felix, I'm working with cloud engineers that have 10 years experience, and I need to completely retrain them to be cloud architects. because engineering or building, unfortunately, doesn't teach you how to design things. So I recommend you do what they would do in an MBA program, the types of case studies that are necessary, the conversations with the executives or mock executives that we would have, going through the entire process of investigation, working with a team and leading a team to go build that design, document the design, present that design, and sell the design.
Yes, if you all have questions, we are here for you. This is our office hours to answer your questions. If you have anything interesting or you're curious about what architects, cloud architects do and enterprise architects do, lay them out here. This is what we're here for.
Look forward to meeting you tomorrow, Angelo.
Absolutely. Don't be shy. Angelo, I have all the soft skills and a very good understanding of networking and designing scalable, secure architectures. Are there recruiting companies you would recommend?
There are a tremendous number of recruiting companies that I would recommend. And if you want tomorrow, I will happily give you a little mini interview and I will assess your networking knowledge in 5 minutes or less. I will assess your security knowledge and I will assess your level of communication skills. I'm going to be on that call. That's why I do it. It's on Zoom. I will tell you, I come from a networking background, so I understand it. I will tell you my intro to networking was the CCE, which my number is 7417. And then after that, I spent a lifetime learning how to design network architectures. And networking people, by the way, Angelo, are one of the best prepared for the cloud. Why? When you strip away all the fancy names, all the cloud is somebody else's network in a data center. And if you really have good understanding of networking, and you've got good understanding of your interior gateway protocols, and you've got good understanding of your exterior gateway protocols, and you understand system design, you're going to be in really good shape. And if that's the case, I can give you some recruiters on tomorrow's call. I will tell you that IT Excel in New York City, Christina Marino is one of the best recruiters I've ever met. In fact, she and I we've done discussions on our channel. We did one last week, which we're going to post very soon on the YouTube channel. And we're going to probably do a weekly recruiter show with Christina, because a good recruiter is one of the best tools you can possibly have. And also part of that is learning how to build your resume. If your resume is full of hands-on techie stuff, that doesn't look like an architect. So you'll have to translate those things. But I look forward to meeting you tomorrow.
From Chris, get those questions in. Otherwise, I'm going to put Mike Alonso and Tyrone to work on something else. Yes, he will. Yes, we always are in the proverbial lab working to make great content for you guys and gals, for everyone, and being able to break down these concepts, showcase how wonderful the cloud architect and enterprise architect career is. But, if you all don't have questions, Chris will do that very thing. So please lay them out for us. This is what we're here for. Felix Alvarez. Okay, thanks very much. It's more a consulting and business position.
Felix, absolutely. And that's the whole problem with certifications. And it's the reason we have to retrain people every day who have taken everybody else's boot camp. This is a consulting position, and people aren't being taught consulting skills. They're learning how to code, how to configure, how to play with Linux, and all of those other things.
Back to One Social Engineer. I am going to go through your training next month and take the interview program with you. Does it make sense to do both at the same time?
So if you want to do both, that would be totally fine. What I would say is do about 30% of the interview training or 40% before we'd have our first discussion. And look, in a group setting, I'll polish you up and I'll polish you up real good. And then, if you want to prepare for a specific interview, then I can happily do it. And I would be more than honored to do so. Students in that tech interview mastery program get a discount on these, and they also get priority over external people. We really cater to our internal clients first. And with the limited amount of time we have, I'd rather run a discounted consult for a student that we've already trained than charge double or something like that to an external student. I want our clients to do well. I mean, it means everything to me for our clients to do well. So I would say, see what you can do with the Tech Interview Mastery Program. I don't think you'll need any more, but you want more? And you want to maximize that interview to maybe steal an extra $20,000 to $50,000 more? I'm happy to work with you. But I like to say, try and assess. I am sure you're going to do well with that Tech Interview Mastery Program. And if you want more, we're here for you. And I'm always happy to help. But really, my goal is to charge people the least amount of money necessary and get them to the maximum place that I can. So happy to work with you. Happy to do private consults. Happy to have you in the class. But I really think the class is the first and best value. And anything more than that, I'm happy to provide. As long as you get hired and you get a great job, I'm happy. I'm pretty simple. Very outcome focused. So I've got an incredibly busy day, as I do every day. My life involves running a company, running a team, speaking to the media, which occurs, it feels like it's almost every day. But I carved this time out to help you. So if you've got a question, please ask it. And yes, we both have a lot of work to do, so we're happy to take a break and communicate to the community and really guide people. So, any last questions from anybody? Yeah, a lot of shy people today compared to normal. Normally, we run out of time, but if there's no more questions, we'll get back to work. I might even see my wife before she goes out to her next endeavor. In any case, please join us tomorrow for the Enterprise Architect webinar. Please take advantage if you want to be an enterprise architect or an enterprise cloud architect of the 50% discount on what we have right now. And please also, if you want to be a cloud architect, sign up for the How to Become a Cloud Architect document. It will list 100% of the skills that you need, all of them. And it'll give you some insight into our secret sauce, which, you could go get an MBA on your own. You could train with us, but it will show you all those things that you actually need to be successful, regardless of where you're trained. I just don't want anybody wasting their time. I mean, I've taken people that have taken $10,000 boot camps. Daniel Bosa wasted $35,000 to be taught nothing that was useful for him. He was taught by people that never even worked in tech before at some boot camp. I can tell you, I've got people passing security boot camp, networking boot camp, but they don't know networking, they don't know security, because the people that teach it are just inexperienced. And, having skills is good. But if you're an airplane pilot and you have to fly a plane, but you've learned how to drive a boat, unfortunately, it's not going to help you with the takeoff, the landing, or even flying the airplane. They're skills. They're just the wrong skills. Coding is not an architect skill. It's an engineering skill. Hands-on implementation is not an architect skill. It's an engineering skill. Architect skill is understanding how the stuff works and how to apply it to a challenge. That's architecture. And that's why if you're the building architect, they make the pretty blueprints and somebody else builds it. If you're a cloud architect, you design the multi-cloud design. In 98% of the times, only 2% of the times is going to be single cloud vendor. And guess what? You enjoy that. You design it, you present it, you sell it, you negotiate the deal, and then you go to the next client. And these architecture careers are the best careers there are. So you guys are quiet on questions. I'm going to get back to work. Alonzo's going to get back to work, and I hope to see you on the webinar tomorrow and the next one. Take care, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining us.